Minglaba, today the ARE is speaking with Dr. Duoguang Bei, the president of the Chinese Academies of Financial Inclusion in China, the well experienced in that status. He talked about with the ARE his experience of the digital financial markets and how China's are overgained, and he suggests to the Myanmar government to implement at the beginning of the state. I'm Josimont, a senior journalist of the ARE. Here is our conversations. Dr. Bei, how are you today?
Fine, thank you.
Thank you, good.
Yeah,
today we're going to talk about the digital financial service here and talk about your experience in China. So first, could you please tell about yourself and how was you working for in China, and then recently, what are you doing now?
Okay, I'm president of Chinese Academy of Financial Inclusion at Renmin University of China, which is a platform that we try to combine regulators, practitioners, and researchers to work together to push forward the development of financial inclusion in China. This is a very new academy, actually, established 2 years ago. Before that, I worked for investment banks for about roughly 20 years. And early years, I worked for government agencies related to the finance.
So as I heard that, China's the digital financial market is growing so fast and compared to last 1 decade. So how did China overcome this kind of the situations, and how the China government implement to develop this financial service?
Yeah, frankly speaking, the financial inclusion in China was a little bit late compared to some other developing countries. We just started microfinance about 10 years in a very limited scale. Traditional banks are very reluctant in terms of its business model to do microfinance. Some NGOs, some very small microfinancial institutions are doing this work, but relatively speaking, it's not so powerful. But recent years, about just 2 or 3 years ago, some technology company get involved in this area. They based on their technology, financial technology, fintech, and to provide the financial service to the area that traditional banking system are not covered. For example, medium-sized, small-sized, or even micro-sized companies, and middle and lower income families, particularly in the rural areas where most of the farmers are not really covered by the existing financial system. So these new technology companies growing very fast. Now some of the companies have become the largest fintech company in the world, like Ant Financial is the largest. Based on some rankings, now the top 10, the largest fintech company in the world, there are 5 companies are Chinese companies. So look at all those areas. Chinese companies become a very leading, powerful influence in the world. People will ask why these companies, growing so fast, and why DFI growing so fast in China. Based on my observation, I would say there are several drivers behind to push forward this trend. Number one is China is a large country with a huge population, so that means the market is large enough. Any disruptors can get a profit from this market, since the market is not sufficiently covered by the existing financial system. And second, I think is very important in China, infrastructure. for example, communication networks are very well established, very developed in China, even in the rural areas. So people can use a mobile phone, use the internet online, doing e-commerce, and then receive those financial products. So this is also very important driver.
Dr. Bei, thank you for the full information about China and how China has overcome the mobile financial service. The thing is, you have said that now the mobile financial services coverage all over the nation in China, right? So,
almost.
Yeah, almost. So how the real people, the people in rural areas, how they can access the mobile phone financial service, and how the China government encourage those people to use mobile financial service effectively? How regulators doing at the time?
Yeah, very good question. When we talk about the digital financial inclusion in China, basically we talk more what happened in the urban areas. But in rural areas, although most of people, adults, have their smartphone, I would say about 90% coverage already. Penetration ratio is very high. But the people in rural areas basically reluctant to use mobile phone as a financial service receiver, okay? Since they like to have a face-to-face service. So you know what I mean? So the digital financial service in rural areas is ongoing right now. Not everybody receive it, although they have a mobile phone. So it takes steps. For example, in most of the villages in China, rural areas, credit union, they are very active. They consider all those farmers are not so active to use mobile banking. So they install a kind of, we consider it's a transitional device installed in the village, every villages. For example, a small store or a small supermarket with the owner as an agent. So this device is an expanded POS device. So people can pay, and people can transfer money, from this spot to their family or to somebody else. And the people can save money at a certain amount of money. And the people even can borrow, since the agent played the role, the owner played the role as an agent with, for example, 2,000 yuan as a ceiling. So the farmer can borrow money from this machine. So it's what we call, it's not a mobile, but it's also digitalized. It's a kind of it's a transitional devices. But if the final direction, I would believe, even in the rural areas, mobile banking is a trend. So now the government push very hard. They ask all those traditional banks, they do digitalize their service. So most of the banks, they can provide the service online, and also they provide the application to the mobile, phone users.
So what about digital innovation in China?
Well, this is the area we are proud of in China. So people use this one for digital payment. Like in China, you can see, if you visit Shanghai and Beijing, you can see everywhere, you can see the bicycles. And then you use the mobile phone, just scan. It's a QR code, and then you can take it with a very limited cost, half yuan. You can ride for 30 minutes. So people use it very, popular. So people take subway and get off from subway to take this bicycle and go to campus or go to wherever he goes. So digital payment is very popular. So I use also usually I use a credit card, but now or cash, right? So now it's a no cash society anymore.
So another thing is the governments, most governments, they are, especially in the developing countries, they are pushing up the small and medium services, small and medium enterprise, the business, to promote those business to develop more. So in Myanmar too. So how digital the financial inclusion, the digital service, financial service can support those kind of the SMEs enterprises?
Yeah, you know, this digital payment basically started from the e-commerce. Since people buy things and sell things from the internet. So once you use the internet, you need to pay. For example, by enter financial, you need to use Alipay. So once you use Alipay, the Ant Financial accumulates your data, what is your credits. So all those buyers are consumers, right? And the sellers are SMEs, right? So they find out all those SMEs, who is the high quality SMEs, whether they provide goods with high quality, or they can deliver goods very quickly, on time, or some sellers may be lower quality. So based on this information, it's called the credit scoring. They can provide the financing to them. So this is we call the online financing based on e-commerce. So this, since e-commerce develop very fast based on these SMEs, not a bigger one. Bigger one, they have their formal channels. SMEs, they use e-commerce very widely. So once they become a seller or user, they become the customer or clients of the Ant Financials. Yeah, that's the way, ecosystem.
Thank you, Mr. Dr. Bei. The last questions. If you have a chance to advise or suggest to the Myanmar government to implement and to promote the mobile financial service and digital financial service, how would you suggest for them? What should the regulators do at the beginning of the state in these sector?
Well, from the view of regulators, since this financial technology very new. Of course, there are some new risks, but the regulator need to take a very open-minded attitude, take a friendly attitude towards this something happened. So you need to let things grow up, and then find out how we can regulate it, right? So this is a very important thing. And I would say most important thing is infrastructure. So government need to build up this infrastructure and let the market grow based on this infrastructure. The infrastructure includes these fixed assets like communication networks, transportation, delivery, all those things. And also infrastructure includes some software, like legal systems, like how encourage small company entry into the market, how let this company exit from the markets. And also, one thing is very important, very basic, is a part of infrastructure, like a credit reporting system, which I think government need to make effort to build it up. Third thing I think is very important, based on the experience in China, even for this fintech company, they will consider not only on doing business online, since like rural areas, the farmers have face-to-face service. So now they are thinking about how to consolidate their online capability with offline capabilities. So now it's a very interesting trend. Like Ant Financial, it's a pure fintech company, but they invest into some traditional microfinancial institutions and the traditional banks. So they try to combine these different strengths together to work for the rural areas.
Thank you, Dr. Bei, for your fully and very valid information for Myanmar. Thanks for your contributions.
Thank you.